we go.
Steady weather. Want to give some sympathy to Emily Bailey. She has lost her grandfather last week and had a really nice service. Also want to give well wishes to Bill Bestich and Don has some cards that we're going to pass around. And please remember to pass the cards so it gets all the way through the room. We appreciate it. If you have some good news, Hi Nicely is on Zoom. So this all give hi away. It's been a while. And just to remember, you guys, we have a lot of Zoomers, but we know the Omicron variant is rampant. And please just remember our protocols that we have after we eat, just re-mask up and keep our social distance. So thank you for that. Our invitation today is J.C. Taylor.
Good afternoon, Kiwanis, and happy New Year to all that. I often think about what can I say? What am I thankful for? We just finished up
the sound up.
It's
greatest season of the year for
up.
Christmas time. And
That shouldn't make a difference.
I thought about what happened during this time 2,000 years ago.
This is up.
Child was born. And that man, or king, came from all over the east to get there. It must have taken them about 3 years to arrive. Something because when they got there, the baby was no longer baby. Read the scripture says they came and brought gifts to the young child. So it hasn't took them 3 to 4 years to arrive. In 2018, I made a trip to Israel. Got on a plane from New York and landed in Chile in less than 12 hours. And it took them 3 years. I think that's awesome. Be thankful for America that we can do something like that. Lord, we come today, we give you thanks for all you have done. Sometimes even with all small things we take it today. Thank you for what you've done for America. Thank you for what you've done for this monster. Bring us into the year. We bless your name and we thank you for peace given us.
Thank you so much, JC. Our song leader today is Don Contester.
Good morning. As possible, I think the words to the song are up there, but I think you all know God bless America. I'm hearing an echo. Why is it like an echo? Echo. Well,
Click there. Click there. They're up.
And beside her, and guide her through the night with the light.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Our pledge of allegiance today, so be Joyce Montgomery.
I just can't hear anything.
Hi, my name is Kevin Berry. I'm really happy to be here this second introducing any of our guests.
To give me a chance to do that without getting all the way out there.
All right, so we have, if you could, as I call your name, stand up, that would be great, so we can recognize you. We'll start off with JJ Harper and Mark Sheldon from the Action Club. They're here as guests of Ken Briggs and Mike Lovell. Vicky Culpepper with the Girl Scouts, that's a guest of Gary. I believe that is all that I have to do. Otherwise, give a holler if it's not, but what a pleasure it is.
Thanks, Kevin. And I'm going to let Ken Briggs come up. And I saw we had some guests on Zoom. And let Ken introduce those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, President Clark. It is a bounce back here tonight. The first meeting in our calendar year has become a tradition that we try to invite back some of our past Key Club lieutenant governors. Many of these young folks are home for college. Today we have two of them with us. Others are home, but they're working and not be with us today. But we have two of them here with us by Zoom. Candace Malenta is a 2019 graduate of Faith Christian School. Candace served as the president of the Key Club there. In fact, she founded the Key Club. Her oldest sister was Key Club Lieutenant Governor at Cave Springs, and Candace went to the convention and came back and said, we need a Key Club of Faith Christian. So Candace founded that club, and it's one of our strongest today. The other Key Club Lieutenant Governor is Hannah Louisiana, graduate of Hidden Valley High School.
Yeah.
We're going to invite both of them to speak in a moment, but I want to tell you, you probably know our Lieutenant Governors best because they come to us and tell us about the dance marathon.
Why don't you hit those dots?
Mhm.
Hit the dots next to mute
Radio Children's Hospital.
options.
These two Lieutenant Governors led our Key Clubs to raise over $18,000. Radio Children's Hospital. So we'll let them speak now and maybe tell us what they're up to these days. Candace first and then Hannah.
Yeah, for sure. Hey everyone, it's so great to be here, even virtually. That's okay.
Your audio is turned up.
Oh, I can. Wait, can you hear me? Is that better?
We can hear you, Candace.
Okay, awesome. Great to be here. I am currently a junior at Yale University in Connecticut.
Are you muted, Candace?
No, she's not, but Lindsay. Okay.
Oh wait, is it still faint? Okay, I'll just go ahead. I'm a junior at Yale right now. I'm double majoring in political science and religious studies. Oh, okay, microphone in motion, that's good, it's a good sign. Okay, and then I'm minoring in Spanish. So yeah, in college, I've just been working on a lot of political campaigns. Then I'll hopefully come back to Roanoke in a couple of years to work there. So we shall see, but it is great to be back here. Great to see everyone through the screen. And I hope that things are going well with Roanoke's Kiwanis.
Great to be back at another Kiwanis meeting, even though it's virtually, definitely a change. I was Lieutenant Governor 2020, so I graduated from Hidden Valley, and now I'm at UVA. I'm a second year there right now, and currently I'm a resident advisor, so I have a group of about 15 freshmen in my dorm. So I kind of guide them, help them out with anything they need, provide them with resources. And coming up this semester, I'm going to declare my major at UVA. So I'm hoping to major in human biology, and I'm on the pre-med track. So hopefully I can get into that major. And at UVA, some things I'm currently involved in are, I'm really heavily involved in the Latinx Society. So I have some first year mentees in that area, and I've made a lot of friends through that. And I'm also involved in the dance marathon at UVA for UVA Children's Hospital. So that's been really fun. And it's great to see everyone again.
Thank you, ladies. So glad you guys could participate today. I'm glad everything's going well for you all. Thanks again. I believe so.
We were having some sound issues.
So our next on our list is grant presentations, and I believe Bob Haberman is going to handle these through Zoom. So switch our microphone.
Unmute. Okay. I assume you can see me and you can hear me now. Is that correct?
Good to go, Bob.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. I'm doing this by Zoom today because I'm just back from a cruise, and on our cruise we had COVID. I didn't get it, but there were a lot of passengers who did, and in abundance of caution, I'm staying away from people for the next 5 days. We have two grant presentations for today. If Miss Culpepper and Gary Durek are in the audience, would you please come to the podium? And since I can't see anybody, if you would tell me when they're there, John or Clark.
Okay, they just got here.
Okay. Gary, would you tell us a little bit about this nonprofit and why you found it interesting? And then when you're done, Vicki, would you tell us a little bit about how you plan to spend our grant money?
Okay, thank you. I've been with Girl Scouts Virginia Skyline Council. And they changed it over. It used to be just Virginia Skyline. I've been involved for a long time. I'm actually a Girl Scout leader, 27 years. And my wife Barbara, she established what's called the Adventurers Program, which dealt with older Girl Scouts. And that's mainly what we did. My expertise was canoeing and bicycling. But Vicki Culpepper is here today, and I sponsored a grant to help some Girl Scouts here in Roanoke. And Vicki is a grant specialist at the headquarters, which is out on Peters Creek Road. And Vicki, would you tell us a little bit about what the grant was used?
This particular grant is going to be used to serve underprivileged girls to sponsor their membership into Girl Scouts within the Roanoke area. Primarily just Roanoke, Salem, and Roanoke City. We have other grants that will help support those that are within the income ranges of 0 to 15,000, which leaves out a large portion of the community that don't fit that demographic. So this $1,000 will pay for a large amount of girls that will actually be able to participate in the program to open up their horizons, give them experiences that they won't be able to have any other place. We do have a mobile STEM center that we're able to take to them. They'll be able to participate in camp They'll be able to participate just as any other person, but they won't have a stigma that's attached to them. The funding will be used to pay for their membership, their uniforms, their badges, and anything else that we can give them that they might not qualify for in any other program.
Thank you, Vicki. And here's your grant check. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And now we're going to even extend this experiment a little bit further. Don Wilson, if you're in the audience, would you please come forward? And Ian Fortier, I understand that you are on the Zoom call. So Don, would you please first advise us, why you found this organization to be so interesting to you? And then Ian, if you would tell us about how you expect to utilize our grant money. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Bob. I'm Don Wilson. I sponsored the Granite Theater Foundation grant. Granite Theater is a real gem in our community, especially in the Granite Road community where my business is and where I live. They do great work. They've got a program for students to learn about filmography, and it's a several-year program. It's very much in demand, and they turn out some real winners, and that's what this grant is going to go to. I'm not sure if Ian is yet on the Zoom. Ian, if you are, if you chime in.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me? I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can, Ian.
Okay. I wanted to thank the Kiwanis Club for this grant, and also Don Wilson, who's just a staple in the Grandin Village community with the Grandin Village Business Association, the Grandin Village Parade Committee. He's just a man among men, and I'm grateful for him for supporting this request. The Grandin Theater Foundation is also the home to the Grandin Theater Film Lab, which in its 6th year is an after-school program for high school age students who come after school for upwards of 180 to 200 additional hours a year in addition to their normal schoolwork. The Film Lab is an intensive filmmaking program. It's not a movie club. They don't just watch movies and talk about them. We put cameras and gaffing and lighting and sound in their hands and in the very first month when they arrive. And we have 2 cohorts, the beginner group, which are first years, and then the advanced students, which are students who are years 2, 3, and 4. This Film Lab program is a unique program in our region, and it's actually a rare program nationwide. There are very few programs in the nation that have intensive curriculum, SOL-based compliant filmmaking programs. There's only a couple dozen nationwide. This program has received accolades for their film products. They've produced over 25 separate short and long form films in their 6 years, as well as various other projects. And this program has been recognized by film festivals from as far away as Austria and Australia. They've received over 50 different awards, including 8 student Emmys for the program here in Roanoke, Virginia. This grant will go to help support upgrading our editing stations. We have pretty elaborate iMac computers and Adobe software that we use to make the films. And in our 6th year, our equipment is starting to get outdated and worn down a bit because these students work these equipment pretty hard. And we're grateful for this grant to help us upgrade some of our computers and replace some of them as well. And I wanted to thank Don for his support and the Kiwanis Club for their support in supporting the Grandin Theater Foundation and the Grandin Theater Film Lab.
Very good. Thanks, Ian. I have your check. I'll bring it by this afternoon on the way back to the office.
Just drop it in the mail slot, Don.
Clark asked me to make the announcement that I have on the agenda, so I'll do that. Thank you, President Clark. I'm president of the Kiwanis Foundation of Roanoke this year, and we've had our year-end appeal. It's been very successful. As you recall, we're requesting $102 contributions from our members, and with a $102 contribution, you would be entered into a drawing for some nice restaurant certificates. We've had 58 Kiwanians make contributions as little as $102 and up to over $1,000. So thanks for your generosity. JC told me a little while ago that they want to hand out these certificates soon, but that he would extend the period for making these contributions. Now I know this is what, January 36th. So if you hurry up and get it in, we can get you a notice for your contribution for 2021. Is that okay, Gary Dirk? Is that legal? Okay. Anyway, the foundation greatly appreciates your contributions. Please mail it into the club post office box, and we'll enter you in the drawing if you contribute 102 or more. Thanks to all the generosity of all of you Kiwanis. Thank you.
So I think we have a birthday girl today who's going to announce birthdays. So Jean, would you like to tell the club about birthdays?
Sure. Can everybody hear me all right? Yeah?
Yeah,
We hope? Okay. I think it's a little unusual. I don't know if this has ever happened ever in the entire 102-year history of Kiwanis. Maybe. We'll find out. Somebody can tell us at some point. So for the January birthdays, I'm not going to sing because today is my birthday and that's a little weird, I think. Other birthdays this month. Tomorrow, January the 6th, we have Dirk Cook and Stephanie Moon Reynolds, my neighbor. January the 7th, we have John Bradshaw. On the 8th, we have Bob Rutherford. On the 13th, we have Chris Head. We have a lot of great folks in here for our January birthdays. The 15th, January 15th, we have one of our newer members, Tom Blake. And on January 23rd, we've got Mark Mickey and Terry Vandelin. And then on the 28th, we have our super group birthdays. That's Pegram Johnson, John Montgomery, and Andy Stone, all on the same day. And on January 31st, wrapping it up, last but not at all least, is Frank Rogan. Let's wish everyone a great birthday.
Thank you, Jean. Happy birthday. We had some Salvation Army bell ringers I think we're going to talk about. Thank you, President Clark.
John Urin here, co-chairman Betsy Bohannon for this year's bell ring effort. Our chair is Ken Briggs, who's been our chair for quite a good while, and he does a super job. Anyway, we set a record this year. This is our 14th year of ringing. It's hard to believe. 14 years we've been ringing bells. And our bell ringers brought in $2,138. Now, our virtual red kettle, headed up by Sherry Hartman, brought in $780. So quite a record. Now, our red kettle had some real generous donations from among our Kiwanians. Steve McGraw, Eddie Barnes, Sam Lineberger, Sherry and Dave. Now, hard to say how many people came by the kettles those 3 nights. But really, the first night, we took in $902.57. The second Friday, $489.77. Third Friday, $708.47. I want to read our bell ringers off to you because it's really a great job, a lot of fun, very rewarding. And so Friday the 3rd, we had Dan Carnes, Jim Watkins, Gene Sherwood, and Jeff Schwingler. Betsy and Chris Bohannon, Reed and Susan Kessler, Bill Bestich, Joe Limmer, Captains Russell, Jamie Clay. On the 10th, David and Margarita Bowers, J.J. Harper, Jeff Schwingler, Glenn Pierce, Joyce Law, the Bowen family, Lance, Christy, Christopher, Vanessa, Jan and Beth Spiker, Stephanie and Earl Room. On the 17th, Andy and Marjorie Stone, South and Sally, Rupert Cutler, Brenda McDaniel, Ken Briggs, and Jeff Schwingler. So, thanks to everybody.
Wendy had an update on the calendar collection. I'll let Wendy tell us about it.
Thanks, President Clark. On the 8th of December, I took 317 calendars over to the VA, and anybody who came in this way saw all the bags and boxes. So there are more calendars that I will take this week. 80 of those calendars were by Rosina Stack. So if Bill is listening, Billy, you've got a fabulous wife who's always very generous in supporting us. In addition, the Kiwanis Club of Blacksburg gave us 50 calendars. So it's broadening out. We've got a lot of support in the community. I know that Jackie has friends in one of the nursing homes that collect them for us. So I really appreciate everybody's hard work, and the residents over at the VA Medical Center will certainly be wonderful recipients of your generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I have a couple of announcements. Want to let y'all know that we're having our officers meeting at 7:30 this Friday. That's on the books. Let's give a big hand. Our 2021-22 directory is done. Andre Brooks has been outside delivering those to you guys. We really need to give a big hand to Andre and John Montgomery because they put tireless effort in what they did, and I think it turned out beautiful. So let's all give a hand for them. And just want to make a note, our crabs took a break for the holiday, but we're willing to bring them back. So if you guys want to grab somebody, please let Lois, Emily, or myself, or Ben Spiker know. We'll be glad to do that for you. Just want to put a reminder out there. If you get crabs in your yard, it's because somebody really likes you. They want you to laugh and they want you to have fun. And if it's a problem, please don't throw them away. Give us a call. We'll come get them immediately. Okay. And thank you for that. We do have some brag books today. Sherry, John, and Bruce had a brag. So I'll let you guys come up.
Thank you, President Clark. I just couldn't let the moment pass without giving a brag on Lois James. I know you all agree with me. I think it's like the epitome of our Kiwanis year when we invite the West End Center to come here and visit with Santa.
And Lois does just a marvelous job of capturing the holiday spirit. I don't know if she's joined us virtually or not, but I actually have a special guest to help me honor her. The rubber chicken dressed up as Santa Claus. And look, has a tube of confetti to spread Kiwanis like confetti. I'm gonna give this to our president and maybe you can share it with Lois. I have one other brag up my sleeve here. I wanna have a display to go with it. The grandkids and I wanted to honor our President Clark Goodman for getting us off to a good start. Somewhere in here, I think I have something for you that we made, but I can't find it. I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. It's a confetti bomb. We made a handmade Kiwanis confetti bomb. Thank you to President Clark Goodman.
Tomorrow I regain my leadership over Roanoke. I will be 89 years old, and at that point, I would like to give, in celebration from you and me, the check to our foundation. Now, 88 years ago, I lived in a little house in Norfolk, Virginia, and we are seeing it on the screen there. My father built it and swore that he paid no more than $5,000 for that house. We lived in it until I moved to Roanoke some 55 years ago, which incidentally was when I joined the Kiwanis Club. And at the present time, that same house,
Yep, there you go.
is in Norfolk for sale for a little less than $500,000.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bruce Swanson. I saw two words in that little advertisement that said vintage charm, and I think that's John Bradshaw. Thank you, John. So I'm wearing my NDSU shirt today, North Dakota State University, home of the Fighting Bison. I should just say the Bison. And the Bison apparently had another good year. They happened to defeat JMU. And the score was 20, NDSU, JMU 14. And I'm doing a multiple of that as a gift to the foundation. NDSU still has another game to play to win the FSC championship against Montana. The coach of the Montana team is related to my wife from North Dakota. He played for North Dakota State. He is now coaching Montana. So it's leading to a lot of family drama when it comes down to who's going to win. So thank you all.
Awesome, Brad. I'm still cleaning up for my brand. So, but thank you. Awesome, Brads today. Our program today is Reverend Dr. David Compton, and he's going to be introduced by Ben Spiker.
Thank you, Clark. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Reverend Compton. He comes to us from a very circuitous route. He spent 10 years with Shearing Consumer Products, now part of Bayer Pharmaceuticals, and then Kraft Heinz in the areas of marketing. He spent 20 years in Ireland, self-employed. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He spent 6 years, has spent 6 years in the ordained ministry in Ireland. His last position before coming to St. Paul's was the bishop's vicar at St. Kenneth's Cathedral in Ireland. That's in Kilkenny, Ireland. He has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Emory and Henry. He's originally from Atlanta. He's got degrees from the University of St. Andrews in Scotland as the Robert James Scholar in Finance and Economics. Has an MBA from the University of Memphis. Trinity College, Dublin, Church of Ireland Theological Institute. He has a master's degree in theology. And this is very interesting. He has a doctorate in Islamic theology. He's the Anglican vicar, rector at St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Salem. I give to you Dr. Compton. Thank you, Ben and Mr. President, and all of you. It's been so welcoming. I hadn't been able to make it here, all the COVID, all the craziness around that. I know some of the folks in the Salem Kiwanis Club, very active and fundraising there, so it's good to meet some of you. So thank you, thank Ben, and thank you all. I just found out I had this gig 2 days ago, so you're not getting any special media. And you're not going to get a long presentation, which you're probably happy about. But I thought I'd pull together some remarks about some of the areas I've worked in, not so much about me, but I thought you might be interested in some of the cultural aspects of some of the things I've done and the business aspects. And I'll get to this in a moment, but I just got back from being out of the country for about 20 years. We moved back so I could accept a call as a rector at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, right next to the library in Salem. And within just a few weeks, I had to shut down the worship services because of COVID. So it was a bit of a shock to take on a new responsibility, be the pastor and rector and chief administrator of the parish, yet having to close all that down for public worship in a few weeks. So we've just started getting back to worship a few months ago, as I'm sure many of you have. We spent a long time using something like that, the iPhone, to communicate with all the parishioners. And we have people from all over the world actually looking at what we're doing on a Sunday morning. We've got a little more sophisticated audio visual going right now. But the iPhone and the tripod got us through about a year of my just standing up there in front of the church with nobody else there, preaching my little heart out, but not knowing if that light was flicking on or not. So it's great to be back with people. It's great to be back in public, eating with people, meeting with people in the parish. Being 20 years in Ireland does have an effect on you. And when we went over there, my wife, Mary Catherine, and I, and our daughter was 6 years old at the time, we thought we might be there for a couple of years, but it turned out 20 years. And so there was a bit of culture shock going over to Ireland, but there was also a lot of culture shock in coming back to America. I mean, things change. 20 years, it's 2 decades. And it's funny what you notice about a place that the people who live there don't notice. We noticed the American flags. And we would sometimes fly into Washington, D.C., see the beautiful monuments. We noticed that there was a lot more traffic on the interstate. The gas prices were amazing because at the time, the gas prices over in Ireland were up to 7 times as high as they are here. Things have got a little tighter in the last year or so, but it's these little things you notice. And I just wanted to talk to you about a few of the cultural things and maybe some of my background. I want to start out by including one of the famous Irish poets who said, "Don't wait to strike till the iron is hot, but make it hot by striking." And I thought that was really interesting. And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, doesn't matter what stage you're in. There should be a real sort of bias towards action. And I'll talk about that a little more later. And I guess I have been changing careers, professions, vocations about every 10 or 15 years for a variety of reasons. But I think having a bias towards action is great for whatever we do, whether it's in Kiwanis, whether it's in our personal lives or our professional lives. Ben had mentioned, I think it was Ben, had mentioned my background before I was called to ordain ministry. I've not been wearing clericals for all that long, probably about 7 years. So I'm fairly new to the life of being called to be a minister in this way. But I spent about 10 years after MBA program working for a couple of large multinationals. The first one was a company that's been absorbed by Bayer since then. It's a healthcare company. And back then it was called Sharing Plow. And I worked on probably the most unglamorous brands that you could possibly work on, Scholl foot care products. And the thing about Scholl foot care products, it was one of a line of brands that the company had, and it included Maybelline, and the mascara and all that. It included the Paws Easter egg dye kits, and it also included copper tone. And back then, there was no such thing as sunscreen. It was all tanning lotion. You know, what we wanted to do is lie out in the sun, you know, absorb as much of the sun we could, and put some oil on us, slather on some sun tanning lotion. That's all changed now. But back then, I had friends in the company who were working for Coppertone. And so at spring break, they did what people do at spring break. They went down to Florida. They put on their swimsuits and they took the Coppertone out, and with a bunch of models, which they did back then, they went and they were hawking the Coppertone brand and made sure all the kids saw Coppertone. Well, while they went to Florida in their swimsuits in the sun, I had to stay back, and I was visiting podiatrist offices. And I wasn't hawking things there, but we were trying to understand more about the business and the marketing possibilities of the products we were selling, which were not glamorous. So we would go in and, sorry, I think everyone's through eating, we would watch the podiatrist whittling away on feet and dealing with bunions and all that sort of thing. But it turned out that that part of the whole company was the most profitable, probably the most unglamorous. But these corns, calluses, and bunions, which was the thing I worked on as a 26-year-old, was the most profitable part of the company, and it actually funded all the advertising for Maybelline and for Coppertone and all these other amazing brands. So I got to work on a very significantly sized business at age 26, 27, and I learned a whole lot by doing that. A lot of the people who were in the upper echelons of the marketing department had been trained at Procter & Gamble, and that was always considered to be the best place to learn how to be a great marketer or a great salesman. So I was very grateful for that. A few years later, I moved over to Kraft Foods, and you know, it's the craft of the marshmallows and mayonnaise and cheese. And I worked in a funny little division in Memphis. And what we did was we basically found ways to use the excess production of the Kraft plants. So we would take their excess cheese production or from their confectionery plants, and we would sell it as private label. So if you go into Kroger, you would see the Kroger brand marshmallows. So that was me. You know, I worked with the sales guys and did that. And then I get a little greedy because I was paid a good portion of my compensation was bonus. And the bonus was based on how much we sold. So, you know, not be content with just selling what we call cheese analog, which everyone knows as fake cheese. And back in the 1990s, all the salad bars had fake cheese. It wasn't real cheese you were eating. The shred cheese was not. It was probably from the plant that I was working with. But I got a little greedy and I said, well, I think rather than selling private label things, I'd like to start my own brand. And the problem was that the brand became so successful, we started gobbling up all the parents' company manufacturing, and they weren't real happy with that. I think the point at which I got shut down, which was okay, was that when I sold 25 tractor trailer loads full of caramels to Sam's Wholesale Club, which basically wiped out the whole production for the Kraft brand caramels that you would find on the shelves. But I had a lot of fun managing the fake cheese and confections.
and started a new division for craft and selling children's confections. And it's the kind of stuff when you go in and you see specialty things for the kids. It might be, sometimes you can see the lollipops where you press the button and it spins, and the gum that's on tape and rolls, and it's all down there at the level for the kids to see and ask their parents. Well, back in those days, cell phones had just really started being used, but they weren't the nice slim things we have now, but there was those bricks, if you remember those. So I decided we would have something called Candy Caller. And so we ordered up a bunch of these fake cell phones from China, packed them with some Smarties, and that, along with 5 other things, put out to the market. The other 5 really didn't do anything, but this one sold $25 million of candy collars in 6 months. And literally, that slow boat from China couldn't get to us quick enough so that we could keep the thing going. But I had a lot of fun at craft with the kids' stuff, and learned a lot at Shoal. My wife has a doctorate in Southern American literature, and she wanted to get that degree when I was still working in corporate. So we moved to a home of Ole Miss. I don't know if we have any Ole Miss graduates or anyone who's been to football games with the Ole Miss, but Oxford, Mississippi is an amazing place to be. And we moved there. I was running a boutique market research firm there. And if you know anything about Oxford, excuse me, and Ole Miss, you'll know that that town has an amazing reputation for literature and for writers. And for some reason, it became a real magnet for writers to come there and people teaching writing. And if you remember back around the 90s, John Grisham had his big break. And his first big hit was The Firm. And they were filming The Firm back when I was in Memphis, just down the road, and they were looking for extras. So if you look in one of the scenes and you look in the mirror on the wall, you'll see me there having dinner with Tom Cruise and Gene Hackman. And that's my 15 minutes of fame right there. So John Grisham had moved, by then he was a multi-millionaire, and he loved Oxford so much, where he went to law school there, he moved back to Oxford. Of course, that attracted a lot more writers. And as you do when you move into a new town, you might visit different churches. And so Mary Catherine and I went to church, and coming into the church, sat down right in front of us was John Grisham and his whole family. And for some reason, I thought, well, you know, he's a nice guy, he's a bright guy. I'm not sure he's any brighter than I am. He just stuck to it and finished his first novel. So I started the same thing. And 6 months of 6 nights a week, 3 to 4 hours a night, I have a draft of a novel, a thriller, a spy thriller, basically based on The Firm. Not the characters, the legal part of it, but this idea of a young kid who gets involved in something and he gets in way over his head, but it's done at the CIA rather than a mafia law firm. So to cut that story short, the novel sold very well. Touchstone Pictures bought the film rights for it. We sold the book rights, had a 3-book contract. And at that point, we decided, let's move back to Europe, because Mary Catherine and I had met in St. Andrews in Scotland. And we might have been over there to golf or touring around the UK. And we thought we'd go for a year or two, take our young daughter there. And as I said, we ended up there for 20 years, just coming back once for some academic work. Some people have asked, why did you move to Ireland? Why did you stay for 20 years? Well, at the time, it was partly a business decision. Back then, the Irish government had very generous tax breaks for anyone who was making their living doing something in the arts, whether it's music, like U2, Enya, book writers, anyone doing that sort of thing. And there was no income tax on any of the royalties of the books. So it made a lot of sense. when we moved over there to do that. And we ended up buying a old rundown cottage and fixing that back up. Back in those days, and my wife's in publishing and I was in publishing, and you forget that you had very large files you have to send on the internet, graphics files, all these other files. And we really hadn't thought this through. When we got to Ireland, the internet was not very well developed anywhere. And our phone bills each month were almost $1,000 because we were still on dial-up. And we had 2 people working from the house. So fortunately, they got better over time. The speeds didn't get any better. I think our download speeds were less than 1 meg per second, which is disastrous. So, but we lived doing that for many, many years. At the same time, because of my marketing background, you have a lot of downtime if you're a novelist. And I wrote 3 novels, all of them published by Simon & Schuster and some of their imprints. But when you write a novel, there's a very intense period of research and maybe 6 months of writing. Then you send it off to your literary agent, and he sits on it. And when he gets to it, he'll read it and get back to you, and you'll make some changes, and then he'll submit it to a publisher, and then you wait a few more months. So there's a huge amount of downtime. So I thought I'd get back into the marketing side of things, and I ended up through a circuitous route. What was the word you used? Circuitous? I think that's close enough. I got involved in the competitive intelligence community, and basically working for pharmaceutical companies in the US who were interested in what was going on in other parts of the world. Were their own products selling? What about their competitors? So I ended up doing a lot of work in Turkey because I could speak some Turkish. I'd spent time there. I've been a consultant there for some other marketing things. So that was a fascinating thing to do. How do you do competitive intelligence and do it in a legal and ethical way? It's a very, very tricky thing to do. And there's a society for competitive intelligence professionals, and there's a code of conduct. It's a tough thing to do if you're trying to find out what your competitors do. But I did that for a long time. Just to say, obviously I'm wearing clericals. I'd never, ever considered the possibility of going into ordained ministry. I'd always been active in the church. We were in the Church of Ireland in Ireland, which is the Anglican sort of Episcopal church version. And one day, I always thought it would be my wife. I decided I need to go talk to the rector. And that led to a long, long path that got me to seminary in Ireland and working in some beautiful places. One of the historical cathedrals was my last parish. The last thing I want to say is just, since I was involved in business and my daughter was involved in business, I was telling Ben on the way over here that she was hired by the Irish government. She also is a dual citizen, Irish American, to come back to America, living in Chicago, to try to recruit American companies to go to Ireland. Ireland's always had amazing tax breaks for Americans and others to come over there. And so she was recruiting some American companies to go to Ireland, set up and hire the locals. But I was involved in business in a little bit as well. And I just want to talk about, to conclude here, just some of the cultural similarities and differences in living in Ireland and versus in the US. You know, generally, there aren't a whole lot of differences. You know, people are people, we're from Western cultures, we all speak English. So generally, there aren't huge differences. The Irish love America, and they love Americans, and a lot of them have relatives who are over here, Canada or Australians. One thing about Ireland is, I think more than in the States, is a very strong regionalism. You notice it in the accents. I lived there for 20 years, but our house on the coast, I still could barely understand one of our neighbors because he had such a strong West Cork accent. But the affiliations between regions, if you come in, you're a man from Cork calling on another man from Cork, there's an instant bond there, just as there would be here, talking about sports and where people go on holidays and things like that. Holidays, vacations are the things that the Irish really live for. They talk about it before they go, and they talk about it when they get back. And it's a different situation. In most of Europe, you're required to take at least 4 weeks off. And most people take that at the same time. And Ireland, being with the weather they have, they'll go to the Canaries, they'll go to Portugal, places like that. But I just remember thinking that was one of those differences when I was in the corporate world. I always felt if I took more than a week, that folks would be thinking, well, we can do without them, a week, that's okay, but, don't push it. But the Irish and the Europeans, that's just part of the culture. They're used to taking 4 weeks off. Everybody supports it. And it's a great thing. The Irish love to talk, and they have a great sense of humor. And much of that talk and much of that humor is born out in the pub culture. And a lot of that comes from the fact that if you're in rural Ireland or even in the city, your houses used to be very small, given the number of people in your family. So the pub became an extension of your living room. So much takes place, all the socializing, a lot of business after work takes place there. And I always found it interesting that people would come from remote areas of Ireland, not just rural, but remote, from small houses right next to the cow yard. And they would end up going to work for companies with amazing brands like Guinness or all the other big American companies that are in Ireland. But they'd always try to come home on the weekend. And but to think that some of these folks, some of us might think we're pretty uneducated, but they had a huge amount of common sense, and they came from that environment, and they went off to universities to get their training. I just want to share some of those thoughts with you when Ben asked me to talk. Obviously, Ireland's still very much in the back of my mind. It's just been 2 years since we got that. But I wanted to conclude with 3 Irish proverbs. The first is, it takes time to build castles. And if you travel in UK or Ireland, you'll see the Norman castles or the ruins or the cathedral where I was bishop's vicar, which was built in the 1100s, which was the same time my house was built right next to the cathedral. It takes time to build castles and cathedrals. The second one I like is, you'll never plow a field by turning it over in your mind. Again, another bias for action. And if you come from a farming background, you got to get out there and do it. Doesn't matter what the weather is. Doesn't matter whether it rained or not, or whether it's sunshiny or not. And finally, I've always liked this. May misfortune follow you the rest of your life and never catch up. So thank you so much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Compton. Wow, I'll be honest with you, I love it. I wish you could talk another half hour. I wanted to say that next week's speaker is going to be Wes Cantrell with Sunnyside Supply Company, introduced by Sam Darby. We do have a speaker's honorarium that we had talked about, but so short notice, he's going to get back to us and let us know where it goes, and we're going to mail it to you. So thank you very much for that. I hope you guys stay safe out there. I know they're calling for snow this coming Friday, so we might have another short work week. Just wish all our Kiwanians good health and safety, and thank you to the Action Club for coming today. Thank you for our key clubbers that came on Zoom. And we're about split today. So we had 34 people in person and 38 people. Oh, 38 people in person, 34 people in Zoom. So we're about half and half this time. You guys have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.